rise and fall of To Catch a Predator. How Chris Hansen scammed fans and completely ruined his reputation. So what was To Catch a Predator? It was a recurring segment on the news show Dateline NBC. Originally titled Dangerous Web, the show was about the simple concept of setting up dates online for intimacy with men who thought they were meeting a person not of age, when in reality these not of age people were adults posing in 2000s chatrooms on places like AOL and Yahoo. These volunteers were part of the watchdog group that NBC paid as consultants to do the online decoy work and collect evidence. The men chatting with the decoys would arrive at the sting house after confirming their intent to have intimacy, only to be met by Dateline correspondent Chris Hansen, who would conduct a brief interview questioning them on their illegal actions and motives before revealing the operation to be a hidden camera sting, usually causing the suspected person to flee immediately. The first two investigations were done without law enforcement, and so the men would simply leave the house afterwards, though the group would give the evidence they collected to law enforcement after the investigation, leading to the prosecution of some of these men, most notably Rabbi David K., who has been in and out of prison ever since. The third investigation in Riverside, California, was the first one to feature a parallel investigation with law enforcement, leading to the arrest of an astounding 52 men over 3 days on their way out of the sting house after their interaction with Chris Hansen. To Catch a Predator proved to be a monumental hit for NBC. TCAP was parodied in South Park, Arrested Development, and even in the opening segment of the 2006 Emmys hosted by Conan O'Brien, with a cameo by Chris Hansen himself. Some media critics and journalists criticized TCAP for being so sensationalized and being more entertainment than news. Charlie Brooker, creator of the television show Black Mirror, wrote a scathing article attacking TCAP for alleged entrapment and the questionable nature of airing these men on national television when they haven't been convicted of a crime at the time. Charges were dropped against some men in the Fort Myers sting after the groups refused to hand over a copy of their hard drive when a judge ordered them to, claiming that the hard drive crashed and was disposed of, leaving an open question to many about the reputation of the group. Still, the show was a cultural phenomenon and undeniably captivating television. Then came the downfall and cancellation of TCAP. Things started to really unravel for Dateline during a sting in Murphy, Texas. First, there was heavy pushback from the local community when they learned the sting was in the town, including an old man saying "Don't mess with Murphy" at a town hall, which became a meme in the TCAP fandom. Second, and most importantly, was the issue of Louis Condrat. Louis Condrat was the assistant DA of the neighboring Kaufman County at the time of the Murphy sting, and he surfaced chatting with one of the group decoys posing as a 13-year-old. Condrat allegedly claimed to be a 19-year-old teenager during these conversations, engaged in explicit chat, and sent the decoy naked pics found online portraying them as though they were of himself. The group claimed that Condrat was deleting his social media accounts like MySpace, leading them to believe he was trying to cover his tracks and had become aware of Dateline being in the area, prompting law enforcement to go to his home to arrest him before he could destroy evidence or flee, with Chris Hansen and a camera crew right behind them to film the whole thing. Here is where things get murky. Dateline alleges that they didn't want to capture the arrest at his home, with Chris Hansen claiming that it would be more compelling television if they had arrested him at his office instead of his house. The warrants for Condrat's arrest and for the search of his home were signed at 2 p.m., but neighbors say Dateline and police were loitering in the area hours before since the early morning, seemingly waiting for the warrants to be signed. Also, Chris originally lied and said the group wasn't with Dateline and himself when they went to Condrat's house, but relented and said they might have been when an interviewer proved at least one member was. Realizing he was home, a SWAT team entered Condrat's home with a Dateline camera crew not too far behind. Officers were met by Condrat himself holding a firearm in a hallway in the house. He told the officers he wasn't going to hurt anyone and then took his own life in front of them. This aside became national news, and a flurry of criticism was thrown at Dateline and Chris Hansen. All of the men caught in the Murphy sting had their charges dropped. Suddenly TCAP's close association with law enforcement and their proclivity to create news was getting more and more negative attention. Advertisers began to withdraw their ads during TCAP segments, and higher-ups at NBC began voicing their displeasure at the ballooning budgets of these investigations and explicit nature of the program. Condrat's sister sued NBC for $105 million, claiming their actions were journalistically unethical and led to her brother's suicide. The lawsuit was eventually settled out of court. TCAP as a segment only lasted a couple more investigations after the Murphy sting before coming to an end. While the popular assumption is that Condrat's suicide and his sister's lawsuit is what led to the cancellation, Chris Hansen claims that NBC was already planning on ending new investigations before the Murphy catastrophe because TCAP had become the most expensive Dateline segment by far. What happened after TCAP? Chris Hansen remained a correspondent on Dateline and tried replicating the TCAP magic with segments like To Catch an ID Thief, To Catch an Hijacker, and To Catch a Con Man. None of these captured the ratings or attention of the original, however, and after GE sold NBC, reruns of TCAP and Predator Raw on MSNBC started to cease as upper management began to change. Chris Hansen was caught having an affair with a young news anchor at an NBC affiliate, which did not help endear him with his new bosses, who chose not to renew his contract in 2013 after he had spent 20 years with the network. Hansen bounced around for a couple years, doing a few projects here and there, and then in 2015 he had a big announcement. Hansen vs. Predator. So here is how Chris Hansen scammed fans. My manipulative wife has been nagging me non-stop about having another child even though we already have 10, plus update. My wife has recently been nagging me non-stop about having another baby that I adamantly don't want. For context, I already had 7 children before I met my wife. I had 4 of them living with me full-time, and 3 of them I had split custody with. When I met my wife, she had a 4-month-old daughter that I now absolutely adore. After we got married, we had a few children of our own. So our life is pretty hectic. We are finally at a point where we are stable. where I don't have to work as much and can be home with the family more. I'm so overjoyed because I didn't really get the option to spend much time with them, but now I can. However, my wife has went from suggesting another baby, to demanding another baby, to us fighting all the time about having a baby. Sometimes these fights escalate and she gets physical. She guilt trips me a lot, saying that she's always wanted 5 children and that I was taking her dream away from her. My wife also said our 3-year-old is getting too big. And that she would like to have a baby now before she gets too old. She asks what's it to me on having another one when I already had 7 before her, and giving her another baby is the least I can do, especially because she raised my children, taking the best years of her life away from her. She constantly states that she didn't even want to take care of them. She only did it out of obligation to me. I was very hurt when she first said those things, especially about our children, because some of my children were really young when we got together and they call her mom. But by now she has said it so much I have become numb to her words. At first, I tried to explain to her the things she was saying was hurtful and that it wasn't fair to me to have to go back to working more to provide for another baby. Especially when we already have a 7, 5, and a 3-year-old together. On top of having a 10, 13, 16, and an 18-year-old living in the house, while trying to help our 21-year-old move out. That is 8 kids in the house, and she wants more. I am telling her that we already have so much on our plate. Adding another baby right now just isn't a good idea, on top of the fact that she almost died giving birth to our youngest. We both had to go to therapy because of it, and now she wants another one. It blows my mind. Of course, me saying that turned into another fight. My wife yelled at me and called me the biggest a-hole she's ever met. She then told me not to talk to her because it seems to be a waste of time. She is now gone and is staying with her sister as of right now. I've tried texting and calling her. She's not responding. It has been 3 days since then. I really don't know what to do. I can't give her a child. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. I had the snip after she nearly died giving birth to our youngest. I never thought we would have another baby after everything we went through. Update, we had a family meeting where I learned a lot about my wife from my wife's mother. She told me that even though my wife was a good stepmother, but she was a horrible biological mother to her oldest child. A child I have never seen before and she has no custody of. Apparently she abused her a lot from birth, and what led to custody being stripped is her substance use. Considering I have never even heard of this child, that was a hard pill to swallow. I also learned from her mother that my wife was pregnant right now. I also learned that my youngest child may not be mine. All I have to say is I wish the family meeting went differently. There came the day of Thanksgiving. My wife did actually show up to celebrate. I tried contacting her several times before the get-together to tell her that I knew she was pregnant and that we needed to talk, but I never got a response. Every time I tried to talk to her at the get-together, my brother Dave would get in my way. Dave would tell me to leave her alone and not to don't bring up drama here. All I have to say is I was getting really sick of him. It was time to sit down to eat. She didn't sit by me. She sat beside Dave. I thought that was really weird, but it all made sense when she made her announcement. She told everyone that she was pregnant with Dave's child and that she would like a divorce. So her and Dave can have the relationship they deserve. But what hurts the most is when my mother said, "Huh? I thought we were going to wait until after the holidays to announce this." After that, it turned into a crap show. I gathered up all the children and left. I didn't have the energy to fight them. Before I left, my mother handed me divorce papers and a list of demands for my wife. I will be speaking with my lawyer on Monday. I do plan on getting counseling and therapy for me and the children. My best friend of 24 years is now a transgender woman. I'm in love with her and not sure if I should tell her. My best friend and I have been extremely close our entire lives. We're practically brothers. Our parents grew up together, so my friend and I were together ever since we were little babies. We've always had each other's back, protected one another, cared for each other. When the whole world felt like it was against us, the both of us knew we were always looking out for each other. So my friend transitioned to a female a few months ago. She's completely physically a woman. She's been through hormone replacement therapy these past few years. Seeing her becoming so much more happier is amazing to see. I'm absolutely proud of her. It's beautiful to see my friend now be so free, being comfortable with herself and always having the greatest smile on her face. But I'm falling for her, and these feelings aren't going away. I'll admit that I'm in love with my friend. The friend I've known for 24 years is who is stealing my heart, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my friend, but my feelings of friendship for her are turning to romantic feelings of attraction. After my friend transitioned, we continued hanging out and talking like nothing changed. We continued going out to clubs and bars, the movies, restaurants, playing video games. Nothing changed. We kept doing what we always did. During this time is when my feelings began to change. I started falling in love with her. You know what attracted me? Her, the way she is. My friend is now acting like herself, acting free and full of life, always laughing, dancing and being goofy. It hurts me, because this is someone I grew up with and I'm afraid my feelings are going to push her away or make this awkward. Like always, I'm insanely happy being with my friend, but my feelings for her are crushing me right now every time we're together again. I've fallen in love with her true self. Her true self is absolutely beautiful. I've spoken to another close friend of mine about this. I just got made fun of. Ha. You wanna F your boy, seriously? Is practically what I got. They didn't understand where I was coming from. They didn't understand what an insanely amazing person my friend is. This friend of mine feels it's creepy and nasty that I'm falling for my best friend. They also aren't taking my friend's transition seriously, which is another reason why they're acting immature. All he did was make fun of me, so ever since then I haven't spoken to anyone else about how I feel. Also, aside from being scared of losing my friend, I'm afraid of what our families will think. What happens if my friend and I do end up together, and our families suddenly start to panic? I'm afraid of not only ruining my friendship, but the friendship our parents have with themselves for many years. Both of our families were completely supportive when my friend transitioned, not a single negative comment. Everyone is proud of her, and the love our families have for her hasn't changed at all. Plus, if I plan to even confess my feelings for her, I have to do it soon. She's always being asked out on dates, but she tells me she's looking for the right person to spend time with. I feel this is my opportunity to confess, but I don't know if I should.